Lovelies, my name is Jessica and welcome to Makeup.misfit and welcome to day 13 of a very merry Jessmas. Today I have the eyeshadow palette tag. This one was created by Samantha March and Alec Lyons, so those ladies will be linked down below. Now, before I get into this tag, I want to just quickly mention, as I was sitting down to film this, I just kind of had a quick thought that I'm pretty sure I forgot to put the questions to the prior tag videos I've done for Jessmas in the description box like I said I would. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back and I'm going to take the questions and put them in a pinned comment instead. So all of my tag videos, this one included the two prior ones, and then there's probably going to be another tag video or two coming up. The questions will be just in a pinned comment. It'll be much easier than trying to put them in the description box. And then you guys can find it a little bit easier to answer them for yourselves if you like, because I'm so curious to know what your answers are for all of these questions, for the tags prior, the ones coming up. If you've done this tag, let me know as well, and I'll go check out your video because I'm super curious about this. I love hearing other people's answers to these questions. So let's get into this one. Like I said, this is the eyeshadow palette tag from Samantha March and Alec Lyons, and the first question is your newest palette. Now, I had to sit and think about this for a second because I went all the way back to the beginning of this year because I didn't ever remember really purchasing an eyeshadow palette with any of my orders this year. I haven't really purchased a whole lot of makeup this year. That being said, I'm not hitting rouge at Sephora, which is like the first time in like 5 or 6 years, which is a good thing. But it's also a little crazy for me just because it's been so long. So I really haven't purchased a lot. I've been trying to I try to stay as close to the dollar amount to like whatever tier I'm in. Because last year I was so close to rouge that at the end of the year I just bought a few things to push myself over because I felt like the money that was in between VIB and rouge would be like wasted money because I spent it all, but I haven't quite hit the next level, which is like so much more than you need to spend to hit VIB, which is like, you know, the middle tier. So this year I'm like pretty close. I think I'm like $20 over the middle tier. That's where I'm kind of hoping to try and stay. We'll see what happens over the next few days and if they have a Boxing Day sale and if there's anything good. I've noticed that their sales just haven't been that great lately. I don't know why I'm going off about Sephora right now, but anyways, back to my question. Like I said, I thought back to the beginning of this year when I bought myself an eyeshadow palette for my birthday, and I really couldn't think of anything else that I bought. So I went through my Sephora orders because I know I didn't purchase. Oh no, I did. The Glaminatrix. This still wouldn't have been the newest one, but I did purchase the Glaminatrix Nearly Naturals bundle because they didn't have the actual palette anymore. And that's in a magnetic palette, so I do consider it a palette. But this palette that I'm going to show you guys is still my newest one. I went back to my Sephora orders, found this because I totally forgot about this most recent VIB sale, which is where I purchased the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette. Now, I'd wanted this for a while, and I finally ended up purchasing it during the Black Friday sale. Not the Black Friday sale, the VIB sale. So this is the most recent, the newest palette into my collection. Now, that was a very long ramble for number one, so we're going to move right on to number two. And number two is your oldest palette. So I've been saying for a while, and I still think my oldest palette is my now condensed version of the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. If you've known about this, if you've been around for a while, you know that the packaging was broken. I condensed it. This is what was left of it. And I still have a couple of shades. This one obviously has quite a larger pan. This one's completely finished off. This one has a decent amount of pan. I actually just hit that the other day. And then I still have these two that need to have pan in them. I'm trying to somehow work through this. It's definitely just been like, I'm actually wearing it today. Don't really wear it very often, but I just can't get rid of it because that palette just like had my heartstrings for some reason. And I think that's still why it's my oldest, because I just cannot seem to let it go. But I would love to like actually use it up at some point. And then I have no idea what my oldest palette would be after that. I don't really keep track too often or too well, so I have no idea. But number three, your most expensive palette. Now, sorry. For this, I'm going based off of full retail value, not what I paid for it, because if I went off what I paid, it could get a little messy and a little confusing, and I'd have like a bunch of different palettes here. Because I usually try to buy my high-end palettes, my Natasha Denona, my Huda. There's another one that I'm blanking on right now. Oh, my Pat McGrath, like my little mini 6-pan ones. I buy them all on sale. I don't buy them full price. So I'm going based off of full price, not necessarily what I've paid for them. And my most expensive palette to date is the Triochrome palette, because it is $163 Canadian. That is not what I paid for this. Like I said, I bought it during the Sephora VIB sale. Even the 20% off is not what I paid for this. This was on sale for $114 plus the 20% off of that. Still expensive. It still came to like $91, which is out of my mind. But I had a $50 gift card I was going to put towards it, and I didn't, because this had like there's a few left little notice beside it, and I was at work and it was like out of stock, and then it came back and it like went out of stock again, and I was like holding off, and it finally came back again, and I was at work and I didn't have the gift card with me, and I was like, I want this palette. Like, it's not going to come back because I knew it was being discontinued, or I believe it's not on Beautylish, so I was like, I'm not going to get it back after this. So I ended up biting the bullet and just purchasing it without that $50 gift card, because otherwise I would have only paid like $40 for this palette, which I would have much rather preferred, instead of the $91. So, you know. But like I said, full retail value, this is the most expensive palette in my collection. Hands down. I don't think I have anything that has quite hit $100 yet in my collection, thankfully. But this is not worth $163. Mind you, I haven't used it, but nothing is worth that much in my opinion, because I think that's just absolutely insane. But I am happy that I have this. So, and of course it's back. They brought it back. They did have this on sale, like discounted even more. I think it would have been about $10 less. But that's another story that I don't need to get into. We're going to move on to my most affordable palette, which is one of my little Essence palettes. I have, this is the Bronze This Way. I have the Coral Me Maybe, and I also have the My Rose Will Go On. So these are $5 Canadian. I love these things for what they are. They're, in my opinion, they're great. I really enjoy them. There's a couple more that I want to get. I think that they're worth it for sure. And for $5, you can't go wrong. So that is my most affordable. Now my everyday palette, I have this one, and I think this was the only one I was gonna show you guys. My everyday palette currently, and it's not a palette I reach for every day, but it's a palette that I reach for when I want an easy everyday look, or something just simple, something like easy to throw on. My everyday palette is my Makeup by Mario palette. It should come to no surprise to you if you've been around for even a couple of days and watched my top 3 eyeshadow palettes. You would have seen this for sure. But this is just such a simple everyday, and I say everyday because it's neutral, but it's beautiful. I wore it last night. I had a Christmas party. I've worn it a ton of times. You can see I have pan in every shimmer now. I think no, except for this one. I thought I had pan in it, but I don't. But every other shimmer has pan in it. This is just a very easy everyday look eyeshadow palette, and I do reach for it quite often, a lot more than I thought I would be. All right, number 6 is your most colorful palette, and I instantly thought my Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. This thing is so cute. I love the colors. I love the tones. Obviously, there are shades in here that I don't like. I don't like them on me. I just don't like really wearing them too much. I had this in some panning project. I can't remember what it was. And I think I wanted to use every shade one time. And I did that, and I fell in love with this palette. There were so many shades that I used more than once, or whatever it was. whatever my goal was for it, I fell in love with this instantly. I have colorful palettes, but I think just the variety, the brightness, the number of pans in here, I think this is my most colorful palette, as my finger gets stuck trying to close it. And the next one is my smallest palette, which is this tiny little Lorac palette. This is the Mini Pro in Winter Rose. I've worn this only a couple of times. There is 6 shades, and they are so little. So cute. I think this would be super easy to use. Obviously, it's neutrals. It's another everyday palette. But this is the smallest one that I have. And then my largest palette, I wasn't quite sure because I was going kind of based off of the size of the actual palette plus and or the number of pans in the palette. So again, I had pulled out my Glam Light Ice Cream Dream palette and I compared it to, I just pulled one, but my Blend Bunny Dollhouse palette. I have Surge, I have Blends. They're all the same size and number of pans. These two palettes are actually like pretty much the same size as well. Like Ice Cream Dream is a touch bit taller, but you can also see that Blend Bunny is a little bit wider. They both have 30 pans. I consider them the exact same. So this palette or a couple of my Blend Bunny palettes are the largest ones that I have in my collection. Now, number 9, the palette with the best memory. I had to sit for a second, think about this because I couldn't really come up with something, but then I saw these two palettes. So the first one I'm going to show you is the Too Faced Born This Way Sunset Stripped, and my stepsister, I guess. My stepsister bought this for me for Christmas last year, so that's why I decided to pull that one into it. But when I really thought about it, I also grabbed my Lizzie McGuire and ColourPop palette, the What Dreams Are Made Of, because it's just Lizzie McGuire. This is my childhood. This was a palette that I literally bought like when it launched, like 1 o'clock on the dot, whatever time it was. I never do that. This palette I needed so bad because of what it is. I would like to eventually turn this into a magnetic palette and just always keep it on hand and always have it for myself. Like, I absolutely love it. So, like, my best memory, this is, like, childhood. This is, like, my preteen. This is my everything. Lizzie McGuire was my thing. Hilary Duff was my girl. Like, couldn't get any more, like, sentimental than this in that sort of way. Number 10 is a palette that was worth the hype. Is this? Yeah. Palette that was worth the hype was the Mercury Retrograde palette, for sure, from Huda Beauty. Everybody loved and adored this, and there's no reason not to. I have absolutely loved on this palette, and I think that it absolutely deserves the attention, the love, the hype, the everything. Again, if you saw my top 3 eyeshadow palettes, this one was in there, so you know that it's one that I absolutely love and adore, and if I could have another one of it, I absolutely would. A palette that was not worth the hype, and I know that this is one of like their better palettes, and I don't mind it, but I just don't see what it is, and maybe it's just because I'm not into the formula as much anymore because I've tried so many other brands, indie brands, whatever, but the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice, to me, is just not really, like, it's good. I like it. It's just not, this was, like, very hyped up when it came out for a good reason. Like I said, it is good, but compared to what I have in my collection, compared to what I like, compared to what I've been using, compared to what I just gravitate towards, this isn't it. It's a beautiful color story. I love the color story. I do enjoy, I never reach for it. I do like it when I do it, but I think for it to be like worth the hype to me, it's got to be something like that Mercury Retrograde palette where it's like I love using it so much, and like I can see why everybody absolutely adores it. Like I said, I know this is supposed to be better than a lot of their other ones, and I haven't purchased one since, besides my Chocolate Bonbons palette. This is the only other tin palette I've purchased, so I can't compare any of the other ones. I don't have any of the other chocolate bars. I've never had any of the other ones that they've had, besides the mini ones. I do like the mini ones. I have quite a few of those, but these large sized tin ones, this is the only one that I have. So I can't compare those. It's good. It's not something that I ever think to use either, unfortunately, because the color story, like I said, is beautiful. But I think a lot of it too is like the shimmers are not my favorite, so it's hard for me to kind of like pull them in sometimes. I don't know. That's just out of my collection. I'm sure there's another palette in there that I could find that wasn't necessarily worth the hype, but it is what it is. That's what I decided on. Number 12, favorite palette from your favorite brand. You guys, you know. I don't have a favorite brand. Like, I want to just kind of make that known. I don't have a favorite brand. I do really enjoy Gimme Glow. I do really enjoy some of my Glamlight stuff. Like, obviously, brands are going to have their goods and their bads, but like, and I do enjoy my Blend Bunny ones, but considering this was number 3, if you haven't seen it, number 3 in my top 3 palettes, and just how much I've talked and loved on this thing, I couldn't not put it into this. I couldn't not pull any of my top 3 palettes into this when like they all fit into one of these questions at least. So this goes without saying. And then last but not least, your most used palette. So besides the ones that I've completely finished off, I'm not going to show you those, but I mean, you just saw. I think that kind of goes without saying. When you put together the fact that this was my Panning Solitaire palette, that I've just absolutely adored it, how much I love and talk about this palette and the use on it, everything just makes sense, ties it together. Of course, this is going to be my most used palette. All right, so those were the 13 questions. Like I said, I will put them in a pinned comment down below, so please feel free to answer them because I would love to know what your answers are to these. And if you do if you have already done this, let me know and I'll go watch your video. But we are finished with day 13. Oh, day 13 and 13 questions. Look at that. We are moving on to day 14, so I'll see you guys all then. Bye.